It's time for another edition of Why Are You Awake? Paul Farahvar here, your host. If you're listening to this, go over to the YouTube page at youtube.com/PaulFComedy to watch us live. This week, we have comedian Adam Burke from Wait, Don't Tell Me. Go check him out. Subscribe to him as well. If you want to see where I'm coming up show-wise, paulfcomedy.com has all my upcoming dates. Make sure you subscribe to everything, like everything, share everything, and don't forget to check out our sponsors. Hey gang, as some of you know, I used to be a practicing lawyer in Chicago. I no longer practice, but from time to time, I need a lawyer. And when I need a lawyer, I call my friend Scott Shapiro. Scott Shapiro has been practicing law for over 25 years in Chicago. He does it all, from workers' compensation to personal injury, employment issues, and even entertainment law and contract needs. If you need a lawyer, call my friend Scott. 312-648-8800. That's 312-648-8800. Or you can email him at scott@scottshapirolegal.com. Tell him I sent you. You're welcome. It's time for another edition of Why Are You Awake? My name is Paul Farahvar. I am your host. This week we have comedian Adam Burke joining me in a second. You might know him from Wait, Don't Tell Me. He's a legend here in Chicago, if not the country, if not the world. Adam Burke.
Hi, Paul. Good to see you again, man.
I like that you were right about to take a sip, and I just turned it over
good.
to you.
It's good.
Thank you for doing the podcast.
Thanks for having me. What number is this?
Well, I'm not allowed to say because we don't really know yet.
Okay, great. Wow. I already found a way to screw up the format.
Yeah, it's
like
okay.
30 seconds in.
You're probably like, it'll probably be like number 5 to 8, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Adam, you've been on the scene as a comedian for, how long have you been doing comedy now?
I started in October of 2006.
Okay.
So
consistently, or you took breaks?
No, I never really took a break.
Wow.
If I did take a break, it was for a month maybe.
Okay.
But
so
never
that's
really.
A long time.
Yeah, 17 years.
17 years. Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't do the math on that.
My comedy career was like a unruly adolescent.
How's that? Because it's 17?
It's unreliable.
And fair.
I'm not getting what I want from it.
Fair. Adam, when I start, I'm 12 years in.
Yeah.
Consistently inconsistent. But when I started, you came off as everyone was so intimidated by you, and I think still people are.
I find that I've heard that from people, and I'm really baffled by that.
I am baffled too now.
Good.
I am, because I know you, but
right.
I do remember a comedian saying, "Oh, I don't think he likes me." I'm like, I don't think so at all. I think he does. He wouldn't watch you if you didn't, but now I know you. I know you're not hating of people, but I could see why.
You know, my thing was at comedy was if we were at a comedy show and there was comedy on the stage, I would watch the comedy. So people would come up to me and they would start to talk to me, and I would say a few words to them, and I would be cordial, and then I would
cordial.
I would be both cordial. And cordial.
Yeah. We're nothing if we're not accurate here.
Depending on how much I like them, you got the extra syllable if I liked you. But then I would sort of, it's so funny because I'm sort of realizing this now that maybe that's why people thought I didn't like them. But my thing would be, no, there's another comic on stage.
Right.
And unless we are in a completely separate room, I'm not talking to you while there's another comic on stage, because it drove
respect
me.
Respect the comedy.
And it's like, even if they're even if you don't like their comedy, even if you think they're bombing, there is something especially back then, you could always learn something. Then there is something, and I always if you saw someone who was good and you saw they had that they had killer material and they killed everywhere and then they were struggling, that was always interesting to watch. Just to be
how did they get out?
How did they get out, and why is
it not working tonight?
I know this joke is good. I know it's
right
tested, but I think that's my. I still to this day do it. At Laugh Factory, I've got 3 or 4 sentences. Unless we're good buddies, I've got 3 or 4 sentences in me, and then I always feel I don't know. I feel I don't want to be in the way of the staff, and I don't want to be like disrespectful to whoever's on stage.
Well, I'm glad you said that because my biggest pet peeve is when people talk in the showroom, and I'm like the narc. I always say, guys,
yeah,
and people get mad at me
Yeah.
because I usually let it go unless I can tell that at least if you're talking in the back, there's still people, especially at Laugh Factory and at Zany's, there's people around you that paid money to see the show. You catching up with me
yeah,
about fucking an inside joke is irrelevant.
Yeah.
We can go take this another time.
I've seen people do it at shows. They run.
Yeah.
Like
It's the worst. I said something once to an owner, or to the manager of a club. I was like, this keeps happening. Can I say something or should I say something? And they're like, do not say something. I'm like, really? Like, I just feel like I can put it on the comedy scene. They're like, no, don't say it. People are going to take it the wrong way. I'm like, well, then you do it.
Yeah.
Like, you should say it because it happens, especially at Laugh Factory, when you're about to go up, there's that spot where the comedians are ready to go up. Sometimes the host will be talking to the next person. I'm like, if you're on stage, it's the most frustrating thing.
Yeah.
And then even if you're not on stage, or even if you're at the Laugh Factory, you hear people in the green room that are so loud, and you're like, guys, you got to keep it down.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I think we just had this happen the other night.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm always the one. I'm glad you said it because then I'm like, oh, see, he's a curmudgeon more than me.
No,
But
I think that's why people thought like I didn't like them or something, and it's nothing. It was never anything personal. It's just like we're running a show.
Right. Well, that happened. But if it happens at the bar, which is nowhere near the showroom, and you're not talking to someone there, what's your excuse there?
No, my
I don't
thing
want to interrupt the bartender.
My thing has always been like to, I don't know, like again, I don't want to like force my friendship on anyone, or like I don't want to like force my way into stuff, and like and I do have that thing of like, feeling left out of certain friend groups. But then I will say, like, the people in comedy that I'm friends with, I'm really good friends with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think once you become good friends with someone, it's sort of the notion of having to be friends with everyone kind of loses its luster a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you're like, like you I've known for like the longest time. Like you're a person.
Well, we didn't become friends until later on.
Yeah,
I feel like.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's better to wait and have
Let it happen.
Have a real friend than sort of try to be, pals on a very, very surface level with everyone.
Do you think that, and that's a good thing that you brought up with comedy, I feel like a lot of the people were just coworkers, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
And so it's like there's certain things where it's like, okay, if I have an issue, this is who I'm going to call, or if I want to write something, I know who I'll talk to. But like, do you feel like you have? I mean, we obviously have this kinsmanship because we're all doing this thing that's fucking mental,
right?
But do you feel like there's levels? You said you have your friends, but do you feel like there's something that's like there's ways that you can become friends with people later in life? I mean, at our age,
Oh, totally. Yeah. But I think it's like when you're in your 20s and 30s, there is this impetus to make friends, and there's almost like you almost feel like you're in a buyer's market. You know what I mean? There's so many people, and you'll find friend groups, and you'll find like people with like interests. And I think when you're in your 40s, it becomes way more about keeping friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you become way more about checking in, and then like you have because your group is gonna shrink.
Yeah.
Anyway, because of age and
life.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna shrink anyway, and it's just like you have kind of deeper, stronger relationships with people.
And that brings me to what this podcast too. Now, because of the lifestyle of being a comedian, I was always a night owl myself in terms of a night person. Were you a night owl before you did comedy, or this is how it became?
I was,
before you did comedy. I don't know.
Comedy made me realize how much a night owl I was. But I was, even in like secondary school, high school, I was like, I would always like stay up super late and read, and like I felt like there was too much noise in the day. to really get what, to really focus on what you want to
Yeah.
do, to really like, I was never a person who could read, like with people running around and distracting you and TV on and all that kind of shit. But like when it was like real quiet, and then when I got to college, it got real bad. I was like, I'm a guy who would start writing papers at 1 a.m.
Oh, me too. See, that I was the same way. I told this story before. Like when I was in 6th grade, I would watch Johnny Carson. My parents would let me watch the monologue. It's like 10:45.
Yeah.
At least. And then as I got older, I just started watching later and later shows. And when I got to college, I wouldn't even take classes if they were before 10 o'clock. I'd be like, oh, this is Psych 400. This sounds great. Oh, too bad it's at 9:30. Did you do stuff like that? Or
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have in the British school system, British college system, you don't really have choices like that. It's kind of like, because you are funneled in the British college system. It's different now, but when I was there, you were funneled in from day one. So if you're doing an engineering degree, you're mainly doing engineering classes from day one, and you're not really doing anything else. And I was an English lit major, so everything I'm doing.
English what?
English lit. I was doing something like, so it was English literature and writing was mine.
Sure.
And so like every class I took, I didn't take a math class, I didn't take a science class like you guys do.
Yeah.
Everything you did was on that.
That's so much better.
Yeah, and that's why we get ours in 3 years. You guys take as long as the money lasts.
5 to 7 years, depends on the person.
Yeah.
And in terms of now, like what's your typical night that you go to bed? Is it consistent or?
No, it's not consistent. But like I never, like, something has gone drastically wrong if I go to bed before midnight.
Okay.
Like something has happened.
Yeah, same. I mean, I've tried to fall, like, let's say I got a flight at 8 a.m. and I fly into town, I take a nap, or I fall asleep at 10:30. I'll still wake up, and then I'm up till 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I can't do that. Is that?
Yeah, I
sound
have to
familiar?
be like exhausted. I have to have been up for like a day and a half.
So typically you're going to bed between 12 and what's the latest you usually stay up?
I know. I'll usually call it right as the sun's coming up.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And you and your significant other, how does that affect? Is she a night owl too?
She's also a night owl. She's earlier than me. She'll normally be done by 2 a.m. But I've always got 3 or 4 more. I don't know. I'm just bad at schedules. I've always been bad at
Well, yeah, we know that. I told Justin, I was like, he's not going to be here on
Sorry,
time.
Justin.
It's the way it works. So so like when I do have a girlfriend and they kind of come to my world of being a late night person, I still need that. If they go to bed at 2, I still need like an hour to myself before I.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that as well? Where
Oh,
is it
totally.
And are you decompressing, or what do you do? Are you writing? Are you being creative? Are you reading?
I'm not late night. I'm not late night creative.
Okay.
I'll be creative like not morning either. I'm not a morning papers guy. No. I'm like I'm afternoon, and then like what gets me real hard is right before a show, which is always kind of rough.
100%.
Really?
That's the one. I'll write bits under, if I'm like, okay, everyone's doing new material, I could do a new material. I'll write it as we're about to go up.
Wow.
I'm like, that's the only time I need that pressure of.
Because I'm a bit better about doing that, but like, there was right in the chunk in the middle of my career, like I would not do.
That's okay. That goes out all the time.
That I wouldn't do anything unless I'd open mic'd it first. So then sometimes I would get so in my head because I'd be like on a bus to the gig, and I would think of something and I'd be writing it like crazy on the bus, and I'd be like, "Oh, I like this. This is great." Mm-hmm. But then I was like, and I was excited about it, but I can't do it because I knew it was like it didn't have any structure to it. It was too long. It had too many ideas, and I didn't know how it ended. So I was like, I can't really do that. And now I'm better about going like, you can do a bit of it. You can find.
If I have a new idea, I won't do it on a weekend show, but if I'm on a weekday show, a workout room, I'll do it, and I can if I feel like it's not getting any love, I'll as soon as I get one laugh, I'm like, I bail. But then I listen to it and I build on it. But that's how I'll write. But it's mostly like right before or driving to the show. I'll have a concept in my head. I'm like, here's an outline. I'll work it out on stage.
That's so funny. Yeah, I'm the exact same way. And I think it's too because you're sort of like, you might be running your set in your head, and you might be going like, I think part of you's going, I'm so fucking sick of that bit, you know? And, you know, your brain is going, well, what about this? And then you're like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah. I'll put like an outline in front of me at the show. I'm like, well, if things are going well, you can try these 3 new ideas.
Yeah.
And just introduce it. And the show at Laugh Factory on Tuesday, I believe they have, is the best night to do that because that crowd is so hot.
It's so fun. I just literally just did that. I did like 10 minutes, and it was great because I was really early, so it's low stakes.
Yeah.
And I think out of the 10 minutes, I did 2 things that I knew would work, and 2 things that were in the act.
Right.
And then the rest was like newer stuff.
The way I do it is if it's on that show or there's another show, Zanies has a show like that too. Depending on the person before me, if the person before me didn't do well or is newer, I have to do 2 of the hits up top so they trust me.
Right.
And then I throw in something that's got no hope. And then if it bombs, I'm like, oh, now I got to dig myself out. But if the person before me was crushing, I'll start with the new and just dig myself in a hole. And I never used to do that. And I never understood why people would do that. Because Drew Michael used to always do that. And I'd be like, why is he doing this? I get so mad. And now I'm like, I see the use of it because it forces you to build credibility.
Yeah.
But I digress. So let's talk about late night lifestyles. Do you ever feel like you're missing out because you're sleeping all day? Or what time are you waking up usually?
You know,
you still get 8 hours?
Yeah, I'll get like, and apparently science backs us up on this, but I'm like, I'll get like 5. Sometimes I will get 8. I'm not gonna lie, but I'll get like 5 or 6, and I'll find the other 2 somewhere in the day. You know
that's
what I mean?
That's the best way to do it.
That's apparently that's like, and that's the thing too. Where like this whole 8 hours, like go to bed at midnight and be up at 8, you know, whatever it is, go to bed at 11. Like that's just like some bullshit that capitalism made up. You know what I mean? Like it literally is, where it's like
it doesn't work because the people who have the siestas live longer.
Right.
The Europeans, they have the break from 1 to 3 siesta hour.
Yeah, and apparently like they've done research on people's diaries and stuff, like, and especially like mainland Europe, in even like urban populations, but also like agricultural populations, they would go to bed at like when they lost the light, basically, and then they would wake up when the light was coming in, because it was all light based. You know what I mean? It's all like, you know, if someone was like a clerk or something, so it was just like, so it'd be like might get 6 hours sleep, and then they would get up in the morning and do a couple hours of work, and then they would like sleep from like 11 to 1 in the afternoon. Like it just depended on like what was practically
happening.
Yeah. And it's also like it came down to like how expensive candles were. You know what I mean? Like no, literally
depending on the rate.
Yeah, exactly. Or oil or stuff where it's like we can't afford to burn. You know, you should go to bed because we can't afford to burn that.
So
much
it is
capitalism.
capitalism.
Yeah,
at its finest.
Yeah.
Do you feel like though you're like, I always thought people that would wake up early and they get so much done by noon. Like for me, I wake up at 11 and all I'm doing is playing catch up till like 3. I feel like I'm just playing catch up on my day.
Yeah.
But the things that I have listed to do. Do you feel like you're ever missing out on that?
Nah, I'm just not that. And it's also like, it is that notion of like, if you're a round peg, like if that's who we are at a certain point, you know what I mean? Look, we've already decided to do stand-up comedy. Yeah. We've already decided that
what the fuck is wrong with us?
You know what I mean? That we've already taken such a leap away from like what
reality.
we're supposed to reality.
Yeah,
and conformity and what we're supposed to be doing. And not to be wrong, like we conform in other ways too. Yeah. But like we've already kind of fucked it up. So,
Yeah.
so why not just? And it is like, yeah, you do like, you don't want to be, as long as what you're doing isn't selfish, you know. And if people need you to be places, again, I was an hour late, but
I mean, isn't what we're doing selfish in and of itself? I mean, we're trying to make people laugh, but we're also, there's a self.
yeah, but like the people in your life, you know what I mean?
Oh, that's
Yeah, yeah,
Well, let's talk about that because for me, you know, I started comedy later in life, and now I'm kind of in a crossroads, right? I talked about this in therapy recently, I think, where my friends who were my peers, who I grew up with, who are my friends, they're at a different place in their life, right? Like they have kids, they're traditionally, you know, successful 9-to-5ers. When we all hang out, especially now that I'm not drinking, you realize later in life that your friendships revolve around alcohol and drugs.
yeah,
So much when you stop drinking.
yeah.
And so, and not that I've stopped completely, but
I gotta say, the people who get sober, like I have a friend people who get sober and stay friends with their drunkard friend group, those people are saints.
yeah,
Those people are like, that's
it's hard. It's hard. I mean, and here's what I do in my situation. Cause like we have our annual trip with my best friends since high school. And I come from, I just told the story on Blackout Diaries, but like I drank more in high school and college than I've ever did. I mean, we drank significantly Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then it became Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then it became every day. But it wasn't like adult drinking where you have one drink and you're okay. I mean, you're drinking till what's the point of drinking at that point if you're not getting drunk?
Right.
And then drugs are introduced later in life. What I've done is now it's like, okay, well, we have this annual trip. I know I'm not going to be able to stay sober for 5 days in a row.
Right.
So we end up, I'm like, that's my week of drinking.
Oh,
I'm
that's
going to
cool.
drink. Yeah. And it's fun. And I have a great time there.
Yeah.
But
and you probably don't have to drink as much.
Yeah,
because
my tolerance. Well, they are still drinking at that level. So, you know, we're on round 5 and I'm like, I'm going to drink a water here because but the point of what I was trying to say there is then the conversations that they discuss after we've caught up and we've done our stuff, they're talking about like gardening and their children in school. Yeah. Are you still in touch with your non-comedian friends? Because you've done this for 17 years, so you're enveloped in the comedy world.
Yeah, but I have. So again, I was here for about 2 years or so before I started doing comedy. I was in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had the
what were you doing?
I was like just doing I was writing. I was actually writing kids books.
Okay.
For like a company that makes commercial kids books. So I was writing like Elmo books and hard like what they call board books. They're like kind of printed on cardboard.
Yeah.
And they have these were sound books. So, you know, you would press buttons and they make sound
Would you provide the sounds? No.
Yeah, I do a killer Elmo. There's a great story. The company that I worked for, I'm not going to say them, but they can sue us anyway. But the company I worked for, they
can't sue us for saying their name. Well, it depends on where you're going with this.
Well, they had a book called Elmo, Let's Go Let's Go Potty with Elmo, or know, and it had like 4 buttons on it, you know, and there's little graphical indicators as to where to press it. And this company, they had one where like if you press it, and they made like 10,000 of these, and I've heard the because the soundboards were so cheap when you pressed it. Elmo was supposed to say, "Who wants to go?" But clear as a bell, you hit it, and he goes, "Who wants to die?"
Oh wow! Was it?
And they made 10. You can still find
who did? Someone fucked with the soundboard, or
no one knows. No one knows that if
you know.
I don't know, because here's the annoying thing is these things were legendary because everyone was trying to find them. Like
this was at your company.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like it was. No one knows if someone sabotaged the thing. So it said, "Let's go die," or "Who wants to die," or if just the quality of the sound chip was so bad.
I mean, it's not like it's the same syllable. It's go and die. Those are a D and a G.
But it's
are
also
not
that
consistent.
Yanni, you know that internet thing where two people hear two different things.
Oh,
Yeah.
did people hear it and say, "Oh, we hear go"?
Some people did.
Most
Those
people
people
heard
had already
die.
killed themselves.
That is insane.
Yeah. So this was what I was doing. So then all my friends there, because I sort of inveigled my way into my friend's friend group, and all his friends were designers. And they all had 9-to-5s. They were graphic designers and industrial designers. And I'm still friends with all these people today.
Right.
And they all, like, so that friend group is great because A, it kept me sane when I got into comedy. And B, it's also the reason I got into comedy because there was something about something I was doing. I would go to parties. I'd go hang out with them. And I was always making jokes. And I was making dumb jokes. And I would drink and I would make more and more jokes. And I could kind of see, like... I could kind of see something on their face, like, shut the fuck up. Just stop making jokes.
Yeah.
And then what was so great about when I started doing comedy is like, oh, this is where this should live. You should be...
You found your people.
You should be paid to be that annoying. You know what I mean? People should opt in.
Were you like that growing up? Were you the funny kid? Or
I
like,
wasn't.
Yeah.
I was the next to the funny kid. And I would mumble.
I would whisper things to my guy. Yeah, I was the same way. I'd be like, this is funny. But
yeah.
I didn't have the balls to say it.
People would laugh sometimes, but they would only laugh after they went, wait, what did you say?
Yeah.
And I would because I would say everything like into my chest.
Right.
But I was never that guy. And then once I started coming out my shell a bit more once I got to Chicago. But yeah, it was like, I was like annoying these people. Where were we going with this? About
friends graphic designer days.
No, people. That's what's great about grounding people because the people who still
grounded people being non-comedians
and also people who are like people who still enjoy a drink but have a family because they do kind of have new things to talk about and their life kind of does. I have this thing I'm trying to work on as a bit, but it's like the great thing about being part of a drunkard friend group is you only need 11 stories because by the time you've got to story 11, they've forgotten the first 3 stories.
You just start over.
You just keep
that's good. Yeah.
wrapping them around.
It's like a baker's dozen or something. Yeah. I like that.
But
see, you have more tolerance, I think, than I do because I just can't. And I love kids, don't get me wrong, but like at some point I'm like, I mean, all right, yeah, you gotta put her in extracurricular activities. Like, how is this still an issue? Why are you still talking about it? Right? Like, there's a certain point where you're like, okay, this is enough. And I love hearing updates about their lives, but I don't fit there, right? We don't fit with the norm, not only in our hours of life, but just in the decisions we've made.
So, but also, it's like I think it's good to have connection to that.
100%.
And it is.
Agreed.
And also, but you have to be careful too, where you can't be the jester because.
Right. And I don't like that either when they're all saying, oh, we saw you worked with so-and-so. I want to hear all about that. And you're like, okay, now I feel like I'm just on display and I don't want to be that either.
But also you can, if you can go, well, tomorrow, or like, my buddy's having an after party at 3:00. After the show ends at like midnight, and then I think a bunch of us are going over this, and all the dads look at their clock. It's like it's 1 a.m. And
yeah,
you're like and they all have that look in their eye, like you son of a bitch,
right? But they want to go so bad, right? They want to be, but then
some of them don't though. Some of them are so glad to be out of that. Some of them needed to be out of that.
See, that's another thing too that brings me to the second part of that is like, but now also, because of the lifestyle we've had, we're also working with people half our age on the same, that are our peers that have a different priority. Right. And you have a joke about it too, where you're like, your like scumbag friends are out trying to get laid and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was one of those scumbags 10 years ago, but now it's like 4 years ago.
Which by the way is
I saw your face,
which is pre-pandemic, which is basically a year ago.
But like, my God, like I just have a different outlook, right? Like I still want to keep talking about things, but then you're like, okay, well, they're going next door.
Yeah.
And I know if I go next door, tomorrow's going to be fucking hell.
Yeah.
Or I could just go by myself, get a burrito, and just sit and watch old Newhart episodes, which is like what I end up doing.
That is the greatest thing to realize, that like the televisual comfort food is to allow yourself to do that is like
it's the best.
And it's also funny because people are always like, have you seen this new thing that's on Netflix or Apple Plus, and have you seen it? And I'm streaming, and I've got a VPN so I can watch 4 episodes before anyone else gets it. And you're like, I've literally been watching the best of comedy on Johnny Carson.
and that's what's so funny is before COVID, I didn't even have Netflix or anything. So when I do Patty Vasquez we'd have a show, and I would just tell people like all the updates on, like, people would be like, oh, we'd have a guest that's talking about the new documentary on Netflix. I'm like, did you see season 5 of Barney Miller? It's really good. It holds up. And I would just, and it's such a good show. And then I'd say like Webster doesn't hold up and things like that. But during the pandemic, I got all these subscriptions, mostly because people were like tired of me hearing me talk about the old episodes of Alf. And they'd be like, here, take my fucking password, go watch, Tiger King or whatever the fuck. But now I'm excited to come home and be like, oh, I'm almost done with Newhart, which is my newest discovery. And that's what you end up doing.
There's something to be said for
late at night.
Yeah, like I'm a big rewatcher of Frasier. That's like my.
I could see you watching Frasier.
Yeah, I know. It's very on
point. It's on
too
brand.
on point. But what else? What else do I like? All in the Family is like a great. Is
great
episodes. They're hard to get because people get very kind of.
Doesn't hold. Yeah, the language would have to change now, but yeah.
I'm a big proponent of they should stay what they are.
They should allow you.
And it's like to remember, like they were uncomfortable then. People always look at those shows sometimes and they go like, ugh, you could get away with that. It's like, no, you couldn't get away with that.
They got in trouble. Yeah.
All in the Family the first episode had to come with a disclaimer
up top
that let people know that it was going to be uncomfortable,
right?
And it was uncomfortable. And I agree that there was there were some people who watched that show and laughed at it
for the wrong reasons.
Sure, but like that's also the kind of the point. But it's like, anyway, I do like that late night rewatch of like just whatever you want, and that without being able to get off the rat race of like having to stay up on everything,
mm-hmm.
and also to your point, like those shows like Barney Miller, like. They made 22 episodes, and they were like
a season,
and they were like, this is what's going to play during the summer, and this is what's going to syndication.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, look, not all of these are going to be killer, but some of these have to be pretty good because people are going to be watching these for fucking years.
Well, the writing on the shows in the 70s and early 80s is so good on certain shows. Not all of them.
No.
Barney Miller. I just got into Mary Tyler Moore, which is holy shit. Was the writing good?
Yeah, my brother just got into that too. He was in Alaska, and that's the only thing.
It was so good. It was before my time, but it was so like the stuff that they're addressing, and they couldn't like say things about like they would subtly bring up abortion or the pill, but they couldn't say it because it was like 72 or something like that. And, but then you go back and watch shows that were like, I loved Growing Pains as a kid, and you're like, holy shit, this is horrible. Like any of those shows during that time, like Alf, Growing Pains, Webster were just so shitty. The writing was shitty. I mean, Kirk Cameron is doing Indian accents that are just so offensive. And you're like, there was no joke. It was just him doing the accent because he was apparently good at it.
And that's the thing about you talk about All in the Family. All in the Family knew the bits that were offensive.
Yeah.
It knew.
And they leaned into it.
And if it's people like, that's offensive, but yeah, it's Archie Bunker. He's an asshole. But like something like that sort of benign 80s offense.
Yeah.
Where like, isn't the guy in the turban funny?
Yeah.
Like that, where it's like no one would even think.
Yeah, we didn't know at
that's-
the time. It's like Apu. We didn't know it was
Right,
offensive.
right.
But yeah, I mean, that's what you end up doing late at night is watching these shows.
Yeah.
And they are comfort food. It is like you're just relaxing.
And I'm it's the thing is, I'm more of a film guy. I will always, but if I'm going
That's
to
a
rewatch
commitment.
something,
Yeah.
it's a commitment. And my friend Chad Briggs calls it the Sleepy Girlfriend Film Festival, because so what you do is you have a film that you start to watch with your girlfriend, and you know that she won't make it, and a film that she is into, and then you know that she probably won't make it to the end of, and then you pause it where it's at, because now
She
that
falls
that
asleep.
film is going to last you 2 days.
And then you put in what you want.
And then you put in the film you want. It's the Sleepy Girlfriend Film Festival. And
That's
it's
great.
For me, it's some always old bullshit. By the way, I just want to be clear, like the old time, like I'll start a film at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I do like old film. I'm talking proper old,
What's that?
30s.
Oh God, I can't watch that shit.
I know. And
Black and white shit I can't watch.
And I know a lot of people can. And also, like, sometimes I'll bring this up and people will try to defend me and they'll go, no, but those are classics. And like, not all the shit I watch is classic.
Right.
I watch bad movies from the 30s.
Like I saw ooh, what was that? Oh, I saw Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
For the first time during
Yeah.
COVID. It was okay. I didn't think it was the best movie of all time.
It is a movie that is, and people are starting to realize that it has become so overrated. But it is a film. It was a film that it did a lot of things in a mainstream film that it did for the first time.
Right. I do understand the creativity and the symbolism.
Which
shit.
again, which is like, you can say that, but if you fundamentally don't find the story entertaining, here's the thing about that movie too, because people go, it's the greatest movie of all time. It's like, no. You have to prepare people that the first fucking 15 minutes of that movie is a fake newsreel.
Yeah.
About a guy who never
I didn't know
existed.
that. I'm top right. And I'm like, what's this? Is this the part of the movie?
It's
so
so
silly.
confusing,
Yeah.
right? Where you're like, and it keeps going and going and
Yeah.
going. And Charles Foster Kane this. And it's like, wait, should I know who this guy? Oh, he's a made up guy?
Right.
This is
It's so
much
silly.
fake news.
I couldn't deal with it.
Every time I rewatch it, I'm like, I forget about that bit. I'm like, oh yeah, this is not great storytelling.
So you were putting in these movies from the 30s at 2 a.m.
2 a.m.
And they're about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah,
sometimes?
and I'll knock out 2 before I go to bed.
Wow. And is it because you just can't fall asleep after a show, or is it just because you're just that's the way
and I'm
you are?
just like, yeah, and
Lean
it's
into it.
just my like happy place. A couple glasses of whiskey.
Do you go out in the venture into? I mean, now Chicago's a little different than it was when we were younger. But did you ever go out into the world at like 2 a.m. and just see what was around? Like,
I pulled some. So we're talking
outside of the nights that you're already. I'm not talking about being out and staying out. I'm talking about like you get home, you're like, I'm gonna go out to Jewel Osco.
I've done that. Yeah, dude, I did that a lot in college. I've done that. Yeah, I've done. That's so hard to drag yourself out like past midnight though. And I've gone to things. I've had people talk me into going out into the world post like 12:31.
Yeah,
I meet them up at a late place. In fact, I have a friend, and I'm gonna keep him anonymous. I've gone to establishments like
after being home and then going out
and places that
I've been with you at establishments at 2 a.m. I know that's a real thing.
Yeah, but that like have gone later, and like I've been to key clubs.
Yeah,
it's hard. Only once or twice have I gone to a key club when I'm already home. That's like a tough invite.
Have you done it in the last 2 years?
No. That's behind me. I've done it in the last decade, but that's more or less behind me.
I think the latest I was with you one night, late night at a Irish bar on Diversey, which shall remain nameless, and the bar closed, and we were there till light.
Yeah, till daylight. Yeah,
I think that was the first time I hung out with you. I think you and Danny Callis and I, and we were out too late. And I remember I mean, even if it might have been like 7 years ago, but I remember the next day I was in a lot of pain.
I don't, because I'm going to reference it overtly just so I don't accidentally cop it, but like this great Brooks Wheelan bit about like
the Midwest drinking.
No, but like getting up and seeing the sunrise is a beautiful thing. Being up when the sun rises,
it's like,
it's an awful.
What are you doing? Especially when you're not home yet.
Yeah, and there's something about like feeling the daylight on your skin.
Yeah,
and you're like you've been in a thing all day. It's sort of like popping a vacuum sealed bag.
Yeah,
just all the rot,
everything
comes in.
It's the worst, and especially when you live with your significant other, but if I have someone sleeping over and they've been asleep for 3 hours and then I look outside, I'm like, holy shit, the light is coming. That's when I decide to go to bed.
Well, you think before they've
already gone to bed for 3-4 hours.
You don't want them to catch you still awake.
Well, they know that I'm going to stay up, I think, but I don't want them to. And I'm embarrassed by it too. Cause like, what time did you end up going to sleep? I'm like, oh, just a couple hours after you, but it was like last time it happened.
I lie about it too.
Yeah. It's like, why are we embarrassed about it? Because it's like, I guess it's capitalism, perhaps. Like we should have been asleep 4 fucking hours ago.
We're due at the factory, bro.
Yeah, but I do get productive at times too. Like lately, I've been able to like edit clips or stuff. Not like creative in the writing sense, but I am getting a lot of shit done. And what I will do now, which I've talked about on the podcast before, is on Gmail, you can schedule emails to go out at 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning, so people don't know that you're sending it at 3:30.
That's good.
Like when people are like, I need your headshots or your avails, I get to those emails when I get home because I don't like doing it from my phone. I get to a computer and then it's like 1 in the morning. I'm like, well, I don't want them to get this alert now. I'll send it for 9 in the morning, and then when I get up at 11, I've got responses, hopefully.
I almost have to avoid doing that because if I have like a creative, because I have other like sort of
well, that's not creative, it's just productive.
Yeah, that's true. Like creative, or like if I have a little bit of day job stuff I do now and again still, but like it's all freelance and I can do it whenever. And like I have to almost avoid doing that in the middle of the night because if I get my teeth into something at like 1 or 2 in the morning, I will continue.
Yeah, that's the downside.
Way more so than, and that's the thing is too, if you're up and everyone else is asleep,
there's
like
no stopping.
Pure productivity time. It is like really great.
And that's great. Whereas if you started at 3 or 4 o'clock doing something productive, you're like, oh shit, I have to go to a show now.
Yeah.
And you have to stop.
Right.
But there's no stopping.
There's no stopping.
Especially, like the only thing theoretically that should stop you is the sun is coming up.
But the other thing, my other big time sink is video games. I'm a big video game player.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I think that's the biggest time suck.
Everyone's always surprised by that. It is a complete time suck.
Oh, I'm so glad I never got into that. I did in law school, and it affected my grades significantly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I would do the same thing. I'd be up all night.
I will never show anyone the amount of hours I've sunk into, let's say, I don't know, an Assassin's Creed.
Oh, that seems like something you'd play. I don't know.
It is insane.
I know it wouldn't be a sports game.
No, it's no sports games, but I will say...
I've seen you play baseball.
No, you've seen me play softball.
Softball, correct. Right.
I played baseball when I was living in Dallas. I was married to a lady down in Dallas, and she invited me along to play in the company's softball team, and I didn't even know what softball was. It was like a recreational game.
Right.
And I remember, like, they had me bat or do something. And I remember whatever I was attempting to do, I was either attempting to hit the ball or catch the ball. And I did it so poorly that one of these are Dallas, these are Texans who take everything seriously, except what they should take seriously, but they take everything seriously. And whatever athletic attempt I made, they're like 11-year-old kid. Just looked at me. I was just saying,
what is happening?
What are you doing?
out loud.
Yeah, yelled it. I yelled. I was like in my late 20s at the time, and he just fucking chastised me.
Yeah.
He was like, "What are you doing?" He couldn't understand that I
you didn't
couldn't
know
hit
how
a
to
ball.
catch or hit. Yeah. It's a societal, it's a different thing. Yeah, I get it. Well, I'm glad that you've improved since then. Since when I saw you last time,
Yeah.
you were able to at least
I caught a ball.
you caught and hit a ball.
I was there. I'm there more as a mascot.
Well, I'll tell you what I remember. I don't know if you remember this, but I was on your side on this. You were up your third time up to bat, and you hit it.
Yeah.
And then you got to first base, but it was a close call. Like they
Right.
were like, he's out. And I just go to Joe Fernandez. I'm like, come on. Like, he's not even on my fucking team, but like, he needs that.
That's worse, though.
But first of all, you were safe, but like it was just one of those like moments where it was like close game. And I'm like, give me a fucking break. Like the tie goes to the runner. And second of all, like this is like, come on, give him his hit.
I mean, I almost spilled my drink.
Yeah, you were holding it right. I think that's what was held against you was like he's not taking it seriously.
My can was over the
Right,
was
but
it
I
a
do
base?
remember that
I
moment.
want to think it's called a base. Right?
That's like the one time I get so competitive because it's the one time where like my athleticism as a Gen Xer, and you see these younger guys and they don't take it seriously. But I'm very competitive, and I'm like, I like to play.
Are you competitive?
Very. In everything, yeah.
Really?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Like
To the point where it's like it's not healthy.
what is the thing now that you do that you compete at? Or do you try?
I think I compete with myself more now because
Yeah.
I don't really have anything to compete with. But I mean, like in my head, I'm always like looking at. I don't do it with comedy so much. But if there are, obviously there are people that you have as rivals in your head that if they crush, I'm like, well, now I gotta bring.
But
but
we went to trivia.
No, I would be if we're at a bar and there's a trivia game, I will fucking get aggressive about it. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, 100%. I can't turn it off. Yeah.
Now I want to do this.
But like even when I remember once I was on a date. And we were playing Papa Shot, the basketball thing, and then like it just triggered. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I get so competitive.
Oh, that's good that you don't play.
Joe Kilgallen's like that too. That's why I understand.
Of course, yeah.
Him and I get along when we're playing baseball.
That's
I could see when he's like trying not to.
It's good that you don't play video games then,
right?
Because those controllers are expensive, and if you throw them,
I would get it. I would throw them. I remember we were playing Monopoly with my nephew who was 14 at the time, my niece who was 10, and it got pretty aggressive where I was swearing. It's Christmas.
It's
my uncle was recording
again.
It all comes back to capitalism. Wow. Well, we are out of time, Adam. I really appreciate you coming, albeit late, to the podcast.
I thought that was on like brand.
It was on brand. I knew that. I think I told Justin, I'm like, he's not going to be on time. Don't worry
But
about
also
it.
for the podcast, this is about staying up late. I'm making you stay up later.
Traditionally accurate again. Adam, we'll have you back on.
Thank you, man.
Anytime. I love talking to you,
You
and
too, man.
I hope other people enjoy our conversation as much as we did. Where can people find out more about your upcoming shows and your projects? And
Just find me on Instagram on ATP Burke. Oh, and I've got an album coming out in December, Weaponized Empathy, will be coming out on a Special Thing Records. So please check that
on
out.
what records?
On a Special Thing Records.
A Special Thing Records.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Adam, and thank you all for watching or listening to another episode of Why Are You Awake?